So today in the shop, we spent the whole day buffing Ducati parts. In the end, we got one of the fairing sides totally done, totally sanded out, totally buffed, ready for Joe to pick up. I'm sure he's going to wait till we get the second side done. Now this job started off 17 videos ago. It's a long job. And today we finally see the final result of all of our hard work and all our patience. And one of the panels is done. We'll hopefully get the next one done either tomorrow or in the next couple of days. I shared some of the tips that I've used, and there's always a million ways to do everything in painting. The method I've used, the sandpaper I've used, I've tried finer paper, rougher paper. The 2000 grit that I show on the video works the best. The 8065 is just about as good as the Meguiar's, maybe a little better, a little pricier, but it'll still work. And in the end, what it does, it makes for to be able to buff out the part with a relatively small amount of work, but it's still a lot of work. So I wake up this morning having no idea. I planned the night before I would use the next day or two to buff out the Ducati parts, but I had no idea what I was waking up to. This is the second day of extremely high winds. We were riding this guy, we got a ride, actually 3-4 days of riding. Unexpected break in the weather. It is in the low 20s right now. The wind is blowing 40 plus. There's a wind advisory out. My poor birdhouse blew off the mount. All the birds were terrified. Like a terrorist birdhouse. But anyway, we are going to get Ducati parts buffed out today. It'll be a perfect day to stay in the house. And boy, it is 23 degrees out here, or whatever the hell it is. It's in the low 20s. It is really cold out here. I am glad we are not planning to meet up with Turbo Steve to go for a ride today. Sorry, Steve. So we got the first almost 100 miles on the tire. It feels like it's going to be pretty cool. But I had, obviously with the road so salty and with the cold, I'm not going to try to be too cute with it. But it looks like we're going to have something to experiment with. Basically, hopefully the tire will last through the summer. But we've got over 5,000 miles on the bike now, and we've had two flat, the most ridiculous thing, we've had two flat tires in 1,500 miles. I thought it was 5,000, but the first 3,500 we had none. Now it's funny, while I'm in here, I can hear the wind blowing. I don't know if you can hear it on the camera. We hear wind noise. If I ever wanted to do a wind mic test, today would be the day to do it. So I think realistically it's time to get in the house, make some coffee, check the temperature, and see what Karen's got cooking inside. That'd be a great day to make a roast or something, smell up the whole house with the smell of meat. I don't know. I gotta smell it up with the smell of rubbing compound today. And this video will be dedicated to buffing out Ducati paint. So if you're not familiar with buffing out paint, I'm going to try to show the method that I've used. And believe me, there are a million methods, there are a million products you can use. But I'm going to try to show the one that I'm the most familiar with. And it's worked well for me. I'll try not to leave out any steps. I hear that noise, that's stuff the wind's blowing around the yard. Unbelievable. Hear a lot of noise out there, something's rolling around. It's garbage cans that are blowing around. When it's 23 degrees out there, maybe we should make extra coffee today. So here's the weather for today. It's going to go to 40, but not till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But hey, red flag warning, 23 degrees, a great day for buffing. I had to pick up the birdhouse. It doesn't look like there's any damage, but it blew right off the hook that we have out by the kitchen window. We'll not be able to put that up today. Poor birds, I'm sorry. So after our mandatory extra coffee on a day like today, I know one of the parts is this one. I always have to think about this. This is the one. I'll do this one first because the paint is the oldest. The older the paint is, the easier it's going to buff out. I got this one still sitting under a heating vent, and this one's been under there plenty. This should be relatively easy to buff out today, but I'll show the method and the products that I've used that have worked pretty well for me. The step one is to mix up a little pan of soapy water, just a few drops of any kind of dishwasher detergent, and there is plenty. Now we have an awful lot of sandpaper, as you probably know or realize. There's probably $1,000 worth of sandpaper here, but there's one sandpaper that I wanted to mention that I used years ago, the Mirka, 2000 Mirka. Now, but we found something, and Mark Morgan was the one that found it, and it worked even better. So this is good, and this will work for sure, but I would highly encourage you, if you really want to make this as easy as possible, to do this last step. This is the final step. So the first tip, the thing I wanted to share was, and this is Mark Morgan found this, is Rhino Wet. Now the Rhino Wet in DASA, it comes in several, it comes I think in a yellow line, less expensive, but this is the key to making this as easy as possible. I don't know if it makes it better, but it makes it easier. So step number one, buy a sleeve of 100 sheets. It'll keep the cost of the sandpaper down ultimately if you're going to use it. When you buy one sheet, it's several times the price. So by starting with this, it's in DASA 2000 grit. It's the red sandpaper. Now, we're going to do virtually all of the sanding with this. So what I want to do is the usual thing. I want to make up something for a sanding block. You can rip it, you can tear it, you can cut it. It doesn't really matter. We'll try to make this look like we know what we're doing here by cutting it with scissors instead of tearing it, but it really doesn't matter. What matters is, over the years, I've buffed out an awful lot of stuff. And the goal is always to make it easier, to make it go quicker. The biggest thing that'll make it go easier and quicker is let the paint dry. I know some people, and I've spoken to people, professionals like Bob Brookins, that have a body shop. Oh, yes, and you can buff it out the next day. Now, the reason is, in their shop, the conditions are different than my shop. My shop, it's usually colder temperature, more humidity, because we usually almost always paint in the winter. So what happens, if the paint isn't dry, it'll buff out, but it takes forever. This is a way we're going to try to do this and try to share how we do it and get it done with a reasonable amount of time. So one of the jobs I like to do is I like to get the part a little bit up off the table so I'm not beating the edges as I'm doing this. And it just turns out that these paper towels or toilet paper or whatever seem to make a good way to get it up so it's convenient to work on it. So because our videos are basically to share information, in this case painting, buffing information, what I try to do is always do the first part in real time, how much I can do. And the way I always do it, break a little piece down that you want to do. I want to show how much time it normally would take to do, and we're using a soft block, which you can buy in any body shop supply place. Do it very slowly and methodically and get in all the corners and angles and edges. Because what we're just trying to do is scuff and flatten the surface, get rid of any little imperfections, nibs, dust, dirt, anything that's going to be in the paint. This will be just a lesson in getting things flat, and in this case, you can tell right away if you've missed a spot because it'll be shiny. Now, I want to avoid all the edges because I'll probably be prone to break through. I'd like not to do that, but I'd like to be real careful with the block. Just take my time. Do one little spot at a time. Don't get carried away and try to finish off the whole part in 10 minutes because you're probably not going to be happy with the result anyway. So if I just can show this one part, and in this case, I'm starting at the bottom, the most innocuous part, because if I have a problem or I find something that I'm not happy with, I want to do all the corrections down here so that by the time I get up by the decals and up by the top, I got my rhythm going. Let's just see how quick this is. Because this paint now has been, well, because we had that break in the weather, the riding, this should sand out very easily. Where you run into a problem is when you're trying to rush things. Okay, in real time, let me just show this. We try to do this without a camera cut just to show. So just be patient. It's to share information. Okay, now you can see up here, shiny spot. I've got to do that. Probably I can get my finger in there. Down here, there's a little imperfection. Well, I can block sand that until that goes away. Here's a little tiny imperfection, but I basically want the whole part to look like that. And when the whole part looks like that, or if I do, there's two ways to do it. I could do one spot at a time, or I can wet sand the whole part before I buff it. Well, in this case, I think I'll do all the wet sanding in one all in and get the whole part done. Just because I have so much to do, that'll make it go a little quicker. But this is what I need to do over and over in every little section until the whole part looks like that. And when it's like that, we'll be ready to compound it out. Now, another technique that works for me is I'll use the sanding block. With the sanding block, move it, move it, move it. Now when I'm done and I've cut along all the edges, because I'm only really wearing out the sandpaper at the edge, I can cut this in 4 pieces, and then I can use those pieces to sand by hand, because as my fingers are going to get in there, the fingers will get in the middle of the sandpaper. And this way you just save using up 1,000 sheets of sandpaper, and you use the whole sandpaper, not just cut along the edge. Now, I've got one part done. Now, it's always a good, and I like to do it by breaking up parts, but I just like to take a little break, because this is the kind of stuff, if you try to rush it through. Now, the reason I like to do this in the middle of the winter, even though the paint takes a lot longer to dry up by a heating vent, is today, it's in the 20s out there, and I'm not interested in rushing this through and then going for a ride. I had my gap in the weather there. I took advantage of it. Now I can really pick and choose, and I can really take my time to one piece at a time. And when I get to the decals, no sanding block on the decals. This whole thing will have to be done by hand, because these decals are thicker than the water slide decals that John Pothier and I are using. And John, thank you for all your help and printing the decals even. So this is a little bit different than what I'm used to working with. I'm going to be real careful around that, but I want it all, before I start, I want it all to be flat before I ever go near the buffing compound. Now, I know, just sharing information, a lot of people would take this and say, oh, there's a couple little spots in the paint, run a buffing wheel over it, and it'll be, but when I'm done doing it this way, it'll be flat. It'll be like a facet of a diamond, and that's what I'm looking for. And all the time we put into these wheels, this set of wheels that's going on a GS, well, you can figure it yourself. If it's not worth it to you, if you like having flat black wheels, nobody's going to be mad at you. But this is what I go to sleep at night dreaming about. I love a set of custom wheels on a nice, reliable bike that I've owned since new. It's going to be a nice combination. All right, I had another cup of coffee. I'm going to start working this area here, one little spot at a time. It's just, again, this is just time consuming. A lot of it has to be done by hand. As an example, inside the scoops has to be done by hand. There's areas where you just can't, if you try to use a sanding block along the edge, you almost always break through. Around here, I'll get that all by hand. And it's, again, if you're patient and you take your time and you're not trying to rush it through, it'll be a lot more rewarding, and the job will be better when you're done. Now here we are in fast forward. Block sanding is one of the things that helps you get the surface flat. It's always good to start by block sanding and then finish up with hand sanding. Now we're moving right along. We got the lower half up to the decals. Now the decals I'm going to do only by hand. No sanding block, because these are thick decals and I really don't want to break through in any spots. Even if I'm wrong on the side of missing a little spot, it won't matter. I don't want to have a chunk of decal missing. I want to be real careful when I do that. Now in fast forward here, I was really super careful. Did the whole decal area by hand, and believe it or not, got through the whole thing. Did not break through in one spot. But if I did, we would like be hitting the reset button. I've been super careful not to go through, because I know I'm not going to be able to block sand that level, but I can make it as smooth as possible. I think I've got that amount. It's a good compromise. The next thing I want to do, and I'll get in here by hand. The whole thing's got to be done by hand. There's no blocks to fit in there. This will be one of these jobs that if I can get my finger in there, it'll be very nice. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out how much of this I can do by hand, how much I can do by block. Now the second part always goes easier, but also Karen has just told me that as this day is playing out, she has some errands for us to do. And so what that'll do, and I've asked her, if we take a break basically in the middle of the part, that'll work out good for me, that I give my arm a rest here. I've been pitching 9 innings already this morning. And sometimes it's the areas like the scoops that just eat up a lot of time. You don't, because you have to do it basically all by hand. And sometimes you get a big flat spot, it goes pretty quick, and then you wind up spending a long time detailing something like this out. And of course, that's the whole thing with the buffing too. The reason for trying to do as much of it with the sandpaper as possible is this goes a lot quicker than the buffing. This removes a lot more material, so if you've got a nib or a low spot or whatever, this is going to do it a lot quicker than it's like using a more aggressive grade of sandpaper. But this always turns into a labor of love. There's just no way around it, and if there was a way around it, I haven't found it, and if you found it, please post it on YouTube, and we will truly appreciate it. But right now, to get this, as much of this done before I leave for my errands, and then my arm will get rested up and I'll be ready to finish it when I get back. Now the hand sanding, I'm being super careful not to go through on the edges, any of the corners, and this is just the kind of thing, if you rush it, you try and we wind up going through, and then it's that same thing, you wind up hitting the reset button. Okay, we're making really good progress on doing this, and the time just seems to melt away when you're having fun like this. All right, we got to finish this up here at the top and this part here, and then do the whole front by hand. But right now, Karen is ready, and she said it's time to do our daily errands. This will be a good break point. It's always a good thing to take a break before your arm gives out. The wind is still blowing up a storm here. Look at the wind blowing. Holy mackerel. What a day. Who said it's not blowing? It's 32 degrees and the wind is howling. A great day to get all these errands done. I'll be ready to buff when I get back. And it turned out to be quite a no riding day, which we knew was coming, but we really lucked out. That was just yesterday. I was pulling into the driveway with the MT-09 with a brand new tire, and today I got the heater on. What's wrong with that picture? Because I don't have to go with the bird feeder up. I threw some seeds on the ground. I hope they can find them. And of course tomorrow I'll have a big giant job cleaning out the pond. Oh God, it's full of leaves. Backing out of the tundra. This will supercharge my arm. This will be a turbo. I'll have a turbo windy arm here in about 5 minutes. We're back, and I'll just pick this up where I left off. I've got to do around the front, around here, that spot, and all along the back here. Being very careful along the back not to go through the edges. I'll do that all by hand very carefully. Another hour and we'll be buffing, baby. As we get into the end of this part of the job, very rewarding, because once this is done, the buffing goes very smoothly. Now this is one of the parts I have to be really delicate on, because we're going around an edge and I don't want to break through the edge. I don't want to break through that high spot. I got to be really careful. Everything here gets done by hand, and it's a part of the bike you'll see when you're in the driver's seat. You'll see this, so I don't want it to be anything but as good as we can make it. And we're well on our way to having that done. Boy, that wind out there today, holy mackerel. This is like 3 days out of the last 5 that we've had horrible wind. It was really terrible even riding yesterday on yesterday's video. Just unbelievable. But we're going to get this part. I think we'll get this one part done today, but I never want to get to the point where I'm rushing it. I never want to say, we can just skip that step. And if I look at it and I see a little spot, there's a little spot right there. It just takes time. And that's why we always do this kind of work in the winter. Right now, if I was looking at a riding day, and all those extra days that we left this up by a heating vent, today's the day we cash in the chips. Okay, that's the end of the sanding. What came out great. I'm ready. Okay, we got to get ready to buff it out. Okay, there's a few things you can do to make a buffing out go a little smoother. Number one, don't use an old pad. These old pads, you can buff out a lawnmower or something, but when you start using that to buff out new, fresh, soft paint, and these are cheap enough. I think they're 2 for $3.99, but I'm not sure. Harbor Freight, of course. Why would we ever expect less? The buffers are about 15 bucks when you have the coupon, and I don't know, they've changed their coupon thing lately. But trick number one, buffing out soft new paint, or if you buy a new motorcycle, or if you want to buff out something, you want to buff out anything, is a new terry cloth pad. Now, I always try to keep all my buffing supplies, anything that I'm going to use for buffing or polishing, paint in one thing. This is the one I'm looking for, 8065. This is the one that I get this from Gavin's. It's relatively expensive, but boy, does it work great. And we'll do a little demo on it right now. So with the part final sanded, here's just a couple of things. New pad, number one. Number two, shake the material up. Since we're almost down to the bottom of this, in fact, when I go with Vlad for the paint later, not sure what day we're going to get together. I want to get another thing. But this stuff really works good. The Meguiar's works good. And it's not like one works better than the other. This one works in my shop conditions pretty well. Now, I've seen all kind of videos for all kind of products, and they probably all work. Because basically, you got grit and you got a carrier. And probably some silicone or some wax or something in there too. But it doesn't really matter. If it works for you. And Glenn had some real good stuff years ago. Somewhere down the road, I'll look up that video and try to give that guy a plug too. It was some small company that was making this kind of stuff. So now I'm putting a lot more on than I really need here because I got a big flat surface and I want to spread this around. Now, another choice, and I know a lot of people do this. I've seen it both ways, and to be honest, it works both ways. So I smear this around. Do one section at a time. Be prepared to spend a little time. And if you're in a rush to go to the movies or something, probably not a good idea to start this. But anyway, I'll take this now and using the pad itself because I want to spread this around. And some of it, because when a pad is new, it's going to spray this up on a mirror and stuff, but I don't really care. I want to spread this around. Now what my goal was is to do one little spot in real time. So you can see basically how quick, when you do all the prep and it's all correct, and the paint is hard, and you haven't skipped any steps, this goes very quickly. A lot quicker than the sanding part of it. And it's a good thing because the sanding on this really took a long time. This was way more than an average. Now, because they're collector parts too, I didn't want to compromise anything. I didn't want to be too cute about it. If you took these panels to an ordinary body shop and said paint them, I don't know. I don't know. Now, you can overdo this. You can sit here and burn until all the paint comes off too. That's not the idea. Moderate pressure. If you're pressing down so hard you slow the buffer out, you're pressing too hard. Like a Dremel tool. Let the product do the work. Okay, now I didn't set up here for a rag. Let me get a rag. But I'm not shutting the camera off. I don't want anybody to think I'm pulling some kind of cute stunt here or something, but I want to show this without a camera cut. And this was a part that was in really rough shape. Believe me, it's a lot of work. Okay, so let me take the camera off here without a camera cut. And you see how nice that came out? That is really, really nice. Now, we're going to take our time. I'm going to take as long as it takes and do the whole part. I want the whole part to look like that when I'm done. I can see my hand in it. I can see the mirror reflecting in it. That is the end result of a labor of love. And when you've not skimped on the sanding, and you've got it nicely sanded and smooth. The buffing part of this is so rewarding because you see results right away. In a few minutes, you can see your face in the part. And there's no limit now. We have a lot of clear on here. This part could be buffed over and over anytime Joe wants. Now in by the scoops, this all has to be done by hand, and it goes pretty quick. It's really not a... At this point, you see really nice results relatively quick, and all you really need is an extra cup of coffee, and that's all. You know, this is, at the end of the day, this panel is going to look really, really nice. So. Now, going over the decal area, I was extremely patient and just really took my time. You really don't see it on the video, but I really did that area very cautiously. I did not want to have a bad spot on the decals. And in the end, there's just no way to avoid. There's certain spots that buffing wheels don't go. And we get the rest of this by hand, which is a little time consuming, but we'll get this. And we're ready to, boy, we're coming down the home stretch here, little by little by little. And it's a good feeling to know that by the end of this day, we'll have one panel done. And we didn't lose a writing day, which is always a concern of mine. I always like to have a paint project for a shop project for when it's a day like today with the wind howling and everything. And then every day it rains. I don't want to do anything. I want to go riding. Now, as I'm wiping this down at day's end, I'm thinking just this one is in the bank. Tomorrow we'll try to get the other one done. And then we can call Joe and tell him, you know, come on down and celebrate. Let's have one of those celebration meets. But I think when I get this all polished up. And Joe, when you put it all back together, get a good coat of Simonize or something on it when you're done. That'll protect it from who knows what. You'll be in the spring riding season and bugs will be flying on it. But in the meantime, I don't know. That really did come out pretty good. And that's a lot of hard work there. Well, like all big jobs, it's wonderful to see this result at the end of a lot of labor. And I know Joe is going to be happy when he picks this up. Now, the key thing here is that we didn't overdo the clear where it'll be prone to crack, and I hope that's going to work well because it's a twin-cylinder bike. Let's face it, and all these old bikes, they vibrate. That's one of the criteria I had. There's no Bondo at all, and the repairs where it was cracked and chipped, they look pretty good to me. But I don't know if he's going to enter this in bike shows or not, or just sit around and drool over it at night. But anyway, I did want to thank the healthcare workers. Guys, thank you so much for keeping us safe. Keeping us safe that we can do projects like this and we can go on those rides and we can get flat tires with a nail in them and God knows what else. It's wonderful to be alive. I appreciate all the work you've done and for my family, of course, too. So thank you so much. And I hope you did enjoy the video. This series of videos goes on. There's one more video probably tomorrow. And then we hopefully will get some pictures of Joe with the bike all put back together, or we'll have to stop at his house with a video camera and do it ourselves. We'll spy on him. Anyway, it's been a wonderful adventure, and I think the result speaks for itself. And I hope most of all that you enjoyed sharing it with us. And thanks for watching. Now I'll end the video with some nostalgic footage of days gone by when Miles was younger, and actually when Turbo Steve was younger, when we all were younger. Miles, all these parts are important. You can't lose any of my parts. Okay, line them up for me. Let's go line them up. If you want to be in motorcycle restoration, you got to learn how to line up parts. Oh my goodness. Oh! They're coming down the shop. Takes me a little while to get motivated in the morning. Takes a lot of coffee. Anyway, the parts have been drying up under a heating vent. These are actually going to be ready for the clear today. We'll let it warm up a little bit out there. And of course, we're not going to do these shocks until it warms up out there, but I do enjoy seeing them. And I always have to look around at the parts that are ready to put back on a bike when we do the assembly day. And we're certainly not going to do that when it's cold out there. That's absolutely for sure. But
Every one of these parts is ready to put back on a motorcycle, and I'm real happy about that. What are you talking about?
I had to use a torch to get all that stuff. I mean, it was like almost.
It's JB Weld.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the issue?
Well, the issue is I want to get it clean.
Okay, so sand it with 2000.
Oh no.
And then we'll run it on a buffing
start
wheel.
With 4 and I'll work up to 2000. That's probably the best way.
Okay, well, whatever. Make it flat. The material's thick. You don't have to worry about that. Do it with a block. That's the best way. And then we'll buff it.
Right.
You could do it right now if you want while I'm working on a wheel. I don't know how tough you are. You come over here dressed with clean clothes. Not clean clothes in this shop. Don't go hand in hand. This is not Armani's suit black. No, if you do this with a block, let's see, there's a rivet. No, that's not even a rivet.
Well, there was a rivet there.
Okay.
This is the one I think that said Kirker. You must have taken the Kirker off and put that Ferrari. I
don't know. Yeah. I don't remember. I don't have a memory for what I had for breakfast. Yeah. But you could put another decal on top of this. You want to put a...
No, I'm going to leave it. I'm going to put a decal on it for it looks nice.
Okay, the best thing would be just...
Plus it gets hot. Won't the heat take the decal off?
Not a decal. Now look, Steve, let's be fair about this. You could go... That'd fit right on there. You could go with Ferrari. We got a couple of Ferrari. John Pathia laid all this out. We got some R1 stickers. We got... what is this? Wow, here you go. Look, you don't even have to put a curve in it. Look at that, beautiful. You could be famous. Now you could make, the really cool thing would be make your own decal up.
Heuim. H-E-U-I-M.
Yeah.
Heuim.
We'll put it upside down. Nobody will know. These guys that ride with us are illiterate anyway.
When I drive by, they say, Heuim.
Heuim. No, so why don't you make a thing like a Ferrari thing.
Who made
But
this?
make it say Turbo Steve Restorations or something. John Pathia laid that out. There's a sign shop. A sign shop makes this up. They'll make it for $10. They make a sheet of them for $10.
I have one made this big, and the guy charged me like $70.
Oh, get the hell out! I'll give you the name of the place. It's right local here. See, I had all these made at one time. These R1 stickers for the brake calipers. Look at that. John laid these out too. We got a lot of junk here. You know it. I was just hoping I had something. Ferrari stickers. We got those. Curvy Girl, my favorite. Hey, if you scratch your bike, you just put Curvy Girl on.
Curvy Girl.
I don't have any other ones here. I thought I had. Anyway, you never know what you can find. But if you just want to leave it blank, you know the whole. You know how to do that.
For now. GS?
Just an engine, yeah. Just the engine. So, but it's got to be for that year and that model. I don't want to start improvising.
They're all the same.
Yeah, they're all the same. Not the one with the shaft drive is totally different.
Okay, well, the shaft.
There's two models.
Yeah.
Shaft and a chain. Anyway. So let's see. You're going to go 400, 600, 2,000, 2,500. Then we're going to... And notice he wears clean clothes. You're really not allowed in the shop with clean clothes on. Let's see what you do there. Oh, yeah. That's a nice piece of aluminum. That'll buff out nice. Looking good. Looking good, baby. Wow.
Looking good in the neighborhood.
I can't wait to see your clothes get dirty. We got to get you some windy clothes.
This is like
baby.
It's that who's that cafe racer build a
No. You guys ride those bikes with flat black. I don't do that.
That looks good.
What are you up to? 600, 1,000?
Up to 1,000. But now I got to skip. I got to go a big step up to 2,500.
Okay. See, this is what Scott should be doing. This. Except his is chrome. It's not going to work. This only works on aluminum, not chrome. And how did we check if it's aluminum? Just put a magnet on it.
We sent it out to a lab.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Okay, you went up to 2,500 with that?
2,500.
Okay, now the next thing you do is just I'll give you an SOS pad. Do the same thing with an SOS pad. And we'll go over to the polisher and try it. You'll know right away.
Yeah,
believe me, if you miss a spot, you'll see.
That's about 1/8 of an inch gouge.
Yeah, put a clamp on that. Put the clamp over that.
That stays.
Make sure you put that rubber in between the clamp.
I'm going to put the paint by Wendy decal.
Yeah. Buffing by Steve.
This is the part here.
That's the part you're going to see. So always spend the most time on the part you see. So Steve is practicing his buffing skills.
Yeah.
When the wheel slows down, you press it too hard. And the only thing in here, if you have a long part, you want to turn it over. You don't want to be by this, or you take that wheel off. Let's see how that's coming, baby. Oh man, I'm out of business. You're going to put me out of business. Morgan will never come here for all his polishing needs. Now, if we could only teach Luciano to polish. That's obviously a Harbor Freight buffer. See, this is what Scott needs, but I don't know if he's got one. Coming out nice, right?
Beautiful.
Now when you're all done, we'll run a little hand buffer and some blitzing. Oh, come on. Man, alive. Now, you put the big light on, now you can see what you're doing. How cool is that?
How much did you buy for this muffler?
Price just went up. So that's a good lesson in buffing and the main thing is he's getting dirty. I love it. No more GQ clothes here. There you go. Then for the other half, flip it over so you're not near, your hands getting near that wire wheel. If you hear him scream, you know he got too low. How nice is that? Very cool. Wow, I'm out of business. Nobody's going to come to me with their checkbook anymore. They know you know how to polish.
With their empty checkbooks?
All right, now I'll show you how to get the nice final shine on that. You'll be impressed. Now we found that this works great on paint. It also works great on putting a final polish on aluminum. Or on anything, really. Yeah, you need a lot of polish, believe me. You need the wire brush.
Of course.
The sandblast cabinet with rough grit. Yeah, that's come out nice, right? All right. The nice thing about any of these projects, and most of the projects we do, it's a labor of love, but there's not a lot of money changing hands here. Although I think nobody's going to come to me for... Now you can go to Steve for all your polishing needs. He's open 24/7. Let me post your home phone number on the internet here. Call Steve, fix your computer, buff your bike.
So you
Do you do cars too? My van's getting a little dirty from all the snow. Actually, I did my van already.
If you wash and wax your car, you're looking for trouble.
Yeah, the value goes down when you wash and wax it. Yeah, that's working great. Rub a little spot of that so we can see how it looks. And of course, put it on a clean towel. Don't put it on a piece. You got to hit it twice. This one's had some good wear. You know, when I have a tool, it wears. It's like a taxi cab. It doesn't wear out like the warranty. It wear it out in a week. How's that look? Wow. Boy, did that come out nice. No more Ferrari decal for you, baby. Wow, you could make a little decal polishing by Steve.
You hang these up
like a Christmas tree, yeah.
Chrome salami in a...
Yeah, chrome
Italian
salami,
deli,
yeah. Luciano's Deli.
So I wanted to just review the project, and for anybody that missed the first 16 of the 17 videos, we started out with some parts that were in pretty rough condition. Actually, we started out with one part, and Joe brought the second part in, which needed a lot more work than the first part. So it didn't even matter. Once you get started on this, and once you get the paint, and we waited for the decals to come from Australia, we had to sand and grind, and all of the body work is done without Bondo. That's the key thing. This is a bike that's going to have a lot of vibration in its service life, and I didn't want to have either the clear by over clearing it or by putting too much or putting any Bondo. So I'm hoping, well, we're going to find out. I know Joe's going to ride the wheels off of this. Joe's a professional road racer. That's well, I think like me, he's retired from racing, and he's probably going to ride the wheels off of this anytime we get together. So he's got other motorcycles to ride, of course. He has a collection. He has an RD. He has a GS. So we have a lot in common, and we're both getting old. We got a lot in common. Anyway, I wanted to go back and just review this project. If you haven't seen the first 16 of these videos, They're all on the channel. You just search my name in quotation marks and then Ducati 888 and every one of them will come up. So one of the things I learned from this is that we can do a pretty good color match on this color red, and it did work out better than I thought it would. Another thing we learned from this project, it confirmed in my mind, if you're really serious about making paint match, pay the price and get color right paint and be done with it. And that has served us well. Now, it was nice on this video to see Turbo Steve. He made use of the Ferrari muffler that I had when I replaced it with the Norton muffler, which I replaced with Chris's muffler, and now I'm going to replace it with Luciano's muffler. But we love to do this stuff. It's all about evil twins. It's about getting a lot of fun from old motorcycles. Get a lot of fun from even me and MT-09. Get a lot of flat tires. Anyway, we're coming up on the end of the video, and again, I try never to overlook the fact that through these videos I've been able to make a network of friends that shares information, shares the A-team, shares the passion for old motorcycles, and most of all, the thing we share is our lives, and it's hard not to see that. So by ending the video, I hope you enjoyed watching the video. I hope whether you like Ducatis or Yamahas, you enjoyed every minute, and thanks again so much for watching.